Japan's been through a lot throughout 2023. We had a politician who was fired from skipping too much work, a new president for the Bank of Japan, and Japan's military aid towards neighboring countries. But some events are more important than others, so here are the top 10 political events that shaped Japan in 2023. Believe it or not, Japan finally demasked on March 13th. Most parts of the world already had masks as optional since mid-2022, but Japan took a few more months before making masks optional. Mask use was still common in 2023, but I believe we'll see less COVID fear-driven mask use this year. Nonetheless, keep in mind that it's part of Japan's culture to use masks on a regular basis due to hay fever season. This year's G7 summit was held in Hiroshima, Japan, and this single event boosted Kishida's international and domestic presence. For the first time in history, 3 nuclear-holding countries gathered in Hiroshima. This is significant because Hiroshima and Nagasaki are the only 2 cities that were subjected to nuclear attacks. The G7 leaders got to visit the Hiroshima Peace Museum. While not perfect, Kishida paved the way for a clear signal towards a world without nukes. This was the first time the G7 made a statement regarding a world without nuclear weapons. Of course, words are just words, but this was significant nonetheless. Japan invited other countries such as India and South Korea, both countries that Japan strive to improve relationships. For the first time in history, the Japanese Prime Minister and the Korean President observed the memorial for Korean victims together. The Prime Minister also made it on the cover of the Times magazine on May 10th. This summit helped boost Kishida's approval rate by 9% and help him secure an international footing. The G7 was Kishida's political ace in the hole, but his approval rate immediately tanked from June. I'll come back to this later in this video. Japan has been storing and treating radioactive water for the past decade. For those who are unaware, the 2011 earthquake destroyed nuclear power plants in northern Japan. On July 5th, the International Atomic Energy Agency published a final report concluding that Japan's radioactive water has been treated to safe standards. With the IAEA's approval, Japan started the discharge from August 24th. Neighboring countries such as South Korea and China protested against Japan. A handful of Korean protesters raided the Japanese embassy in Seoul on August 23rd. But the Korean government has approved Japan's move back in July. The Chinese government banned seafood on August 25th. China imports 40% of Japan's seafood exports, so this ban continues to challenge the Japanese government. The government continues to promote Japanese seafood, and there has been an increase of exports to other countries. The discharge process is expected to take 30 to 40 years. Japan is trying to force all residents to use their My Number card, which is basically a social security card that will store your health data, social welfare, and tax information. There's also talk about merging this card in a driver's license, so this will be a card that stores a lot of information. The My Number card started in 2016, but it was never mandatory. Citizens had the choice to create a physical card or just hold on to their notification paper. However, last year, it was decided that all health insurance cards will be replaced with the My Number card, which will in effect force everyone to use this card. Currently, 70% of the population already has this card, so this will force the remaining 30% to get their cards. Regardless of 70% of the population possessing this card, the vast majority does not use this card for health insurance. As a matter of fact, less than 5% use their My Number cards at the hospital. This can easily be changed by forcing people or making a countrywide change, just like the government announced on December 22nd. Here's the problem. There are major concerns regarding using the My Number card. Since last May, there have been multiple reports of the My Number card tied to different health and/or banking information. While the number is minuscule compared to Japan's entire population, people are genuinely worried about their personal information being leaked. The vast majority of hospitals install the machines that can read these My Number cards. It seems like these machines have a hard time reading the cards, which ends up frustrating both the hospitals and the patients. I think time will definitely allow the government to improve this new system, but the clock is ticking towards the deadline. This is as important as other events, but 2023 is the year of improved Japan-Korea relations. With the inauguration of President Yoon in May 2022, the Korean president continues to build positive relationships with Japan. The 2 leaders had their first bilateral meeting on March 6, which hasn't happened since 2011. The Korean president ended a wartime labor dispute that started in 2019. On May 7th, Kishida flew to Korea, which further revealed the resumption of normal relations. As mentioned previously, the Korean government publicly announced that they were fine with Japan releasing treated wastewater as it met international standards. In August, Japan, Korea, and America had a trilateral summit regarding security. As a result, in October, the 3 countries created a direct hotline. The 3 countries also started sharing real-time information on North Korean missiles in December. To finish up the year, on December 21st, Japan and Korea resumed high-level economic talks, which were stalled since 2016. This is a significant improvement of relations. The previous Korean president was extremely skeptical of Japan and relations deteriorated under his presidency. At the same time, Japan had a very hawkish prime minister, Shinzo Abe, and his stance on history really didn't help either. Data shows that Japanese public perception of Korea has improved and is at the highest since 2013. Although it's laudable that the two countries are amending relationships, I'll be honest, this is all thanks to South Korea. The Korean president is making moves to improve relations, and Kishida hasn't really done much. According to data, the Korean public perception of Japan dipped a bit from 2022. According to the same survey, roughly 70% of Koreans also disapprove of Japan's disposal of wastewater. From what I understand, it seems like the president is making moves that contradict the overall Korean perception. I'm not an expert, but I bet the April 2024 legislative elections in South Korea could affect President Yoon's ability to further invest in Japan-Korea relations. I'll touch upon this later too, but 2023 is also the year of free education. Nothing really started yet, but both Osaka and Tokyo Prefecture decided to make high school education free. There are already existing laws to help support education for families that make under 9.1 million yen, but both prefectures will get rid of income requirements. Furthermore, both public and private schools will become free for residents of these prefectures. Osaka plans to gradually implement free education from 2024 to 2026. Osaka will also include public colleges into their free education proposal. There are legitimate concerns whether schools, especially private schools, could maintain their quality when education becomes free. Basically, free education means that the government will pay on the behalf of the student, but only up to a certain point. Private schools will need to accept this payment as a full amount even if it doesn't meet its previous tuition cost. We'll see how private schools try to maintain their quality and uniqueness amidst free education. The central government also announced that families with 3 children will have free college tuition starting 2025. Unfortunately, this is a cheap proposal because once a child graduates from college, that child turns into an adult. Therefore, families with 3 children will now only have 2, thus ending the 3-child tuition-free benefit. When comparing the central government to Osaka and Tokyo, their 3-child tuition-free policy is extremely lackluster. Nonetheless, 2023 was the year for pushing for accessible education, and I hope this expands. Taxes dominated political and public discourse so much that last year's kanji was declared as tax. It doesn't really help when 2022 ended with political debates about raising taxes for the defense budget. This was pushed back to 2025 and now potentially 2026. But increasing costs due to inflation plus potential tax hikes hasn't pleased citizens at all. Given increasing taxes, people started calling Kishida Zouzei Megane, which means the glasses that increase taxes. In response to the growing frustrations, on November 2nd, Kishida announced that the government will be returning gains from taxes. It's a bit complicated, but the simple overview is to return 40,000 yen or 276 USD to each individual. This will start in June 2024. While this is nice, it's barely anything. Also, this will be applied to every individual regardless of their income bracket. People were quick to criticize the government. Regardless of the 40,000 yen return, taxes will still increase in 2025 or 2026. This is seen as an ingenuine way to entice citizens. Kishida's trying his best to distance himself from taxes, but he'll probably be called Zouzei Megane for at least the next 3 years. Talking about unpopular policies, Kishida announced his unprecedented childcare policy, which is supposed to solve Japan's population crisis. The policy has 3 points: economic growth, double the amount of finances for the child and family agencies, and speedily increasing support. His first point is supposed to be accomplished with his recently announced new capitalism plan in November, but unfortunately, we're not going to see the fruits of such economic policy in the near future. The second point is to double the amount of support for the child and family agencies, which was created in April 2023. This agency will help the government create child-specific laws and policies that will address the child's well-being. They currently have a budget of 5 trillion yen, and the target is to increase the budget to 10 trillion by 2030. As mentioned in a different video, I don't think this is enough. If the government truly believes that Japan's declining population is a ticking time bomb, they should be spending more. 43 trillion yen is planned to be used for defense in the next few years. If Japan collapses from within, there's nothing left to defend. The third point was speedily increasing support to families. This could simply be increasing financial contribution, providing daycare services, and supporting education costs. All this is good, but a lot of these proposals will kick in from 2026. Nothing is really about speed. While Kishida's unprecedented childcare policy isn't bad, it's not unprecedented and it will not stop Japan's declining trend. The policy is targeted at current families rather than potential new families. If the government really wants to reverse Japan's decreasing trend, they need to address single men and women. Japan's fertility rate is 1.26, which is the lowest in Japanese history. It's still higher than rapidly decreasing countries such as South Korea and China, but Japan is still in a precarious situation. We'll see whether there will be other laws passed this year to encourage Japan's population to increase. Both of these policies, the tax reduction and the unprecedented childcare policy, have been received negatively. Kishida's approval rating is currently in the 10 to 20% range, which is the lowest approval rating for the LDP since 2012. Kishida initially struggled with his approval rating since July 2022 as he pushed through the state funeral for Shinzo Abe. This was highly contested because of Abe's mixed legacy with his ties with the Unification Church. While the Prime Minister's ratings were on a decreasing trend from July 2022 to December 2022, Kishida's approval ratings were on a steady incline from January to May 2023. The fact that masks were not mandatory, the Bank of Japan got a new president, improved Japan-Korea relations, and Japan hosting the G7 summit in Hiroshima all contributed to improving Kishida's image. Everything was honestly going well in his favor until June. In late May, it was revealed that his son used the Prime Minister's office for a party. Kishida selected his son to be his personal secretary, which was already criticized when this was decided in October 2022. With this revelation, Kishida removed his son from this position. However, rather than immediately firing him from the position, his son was removed on June 1st. Following his son, Kishida's lackluster childcare policy and inflation chipped away at his popularity. The final blow to Kishida and the main party's approval rating was the LDP's fundraising party money scandal. Prosecutors found out that the LDP failed to report over 600 million yen as income gained from fundraising parties. Various factions within the LDP hold their own political fundraising parties, and they generate income by selling tickets. It was revealed that some politicians who made above their expected quota received whatever they made above what was expected. Prior to investigations, it was reported that 40 million yen went unreported for the past 5 years among the LDP factions. However, as investigations began, it was revealed that the Abe faction alone generated 500 to 600 million yen that was never reported. This event significantly decreased the public's trust in politics, and the LDP's approval rating is at the lowest it's been since 2012. Since last month, on January 7th, Yoshitaka Ikeda and his secretary was arrested for violating the law to regulate money used for political activities. He didn't report 48 million yen in revenue. I'll be posting a follow-up video very soon, so subscribe if you're interested to hear the current situation. And here are the top 10 events that shaped Japan in 2023. I would love to hear your thoughts on these events, so please leave a comment below and subscribe to learn more about Japanese politics.